I have been playing too much Fortnite lately. In this video we are going to make not one, but two Hatsune Miku backpacks. One using a fabric and foam technique and one with just using EVA-foam just to make Steve super happy. Just find the patterns on our website, download them and craft along. The first thing in our build is preparing our fabric. We will need our fabric pattern. Fold your fabric double and pin your pattern pieces in place. The seam allowance is already calculated in the pattern, so you don't have to think about it. Just cut them out. Use a pair of scissors. You either can steal the scissors from your mom or you can buy dedicated fabric scissors. Preferably use fabric scissors. Fabric doesn't have any structure, so we need to place backing onto it. We're gonna use foam. Problem is with foam, it doesn't match with fabric. For that, we're going to use Vliseline. What it is basically is just heat transfer backing so that your fabric is more sturdy. We're going to use it as a sort of intermediate, a barrier layer between the glue and the foam. Now the foam pattern can also be recognized. It's basically the same as the sewing pattern, but just without the seam allowance. This is what we're currently going to do. We're going to have one layer of fabric, which is already backed. So on this side, then we do some spray adhesive. Then we're going to place our piece of foam, which is nicely there. And then we're going to place our other piece on top. We're not gonna glue it, no. We're just gonna do this, and then we're gonna stitch around it. So we have a nicely backed piece. There is one very key piece of the bag that is very important, and that is the front face. If the front face doesn't look good, nothing will look good. I found some grey linen in my fabric stash, but you can also just buy grey cotton. I just didn't want to buy a half a meter of fabric just for this tiny little piece. These little details look very menacingly, but there is a very good solution to these. We're going to use heat transfer flock foil. So it's basically foil that comes in all types of colors. I have a whole bunch here. Out of these flock foils you can cut out all the details, and just with a simple iron you can just transfer them onto your fabric. You know, I could cut all of these details by hand, but honestly I also have this silhouette cameo or a Cricut, which makes me do this on a machine. So I'm gonna just abuse the machine. But you know, you can perfectly just cut this out by hand. If you don't want to use clankers, just use scissors. Done. The problem is that we're using a transparent vinyl, and what I realized from working with vinyl, if I would put some heat on this, it will shape and transform. So what I'm going to do is actually do all the heat transferring first and then assemble this part. The most important thing you have to do is basically try to get these heat transfer foils onto the fabric, and the easiest way to do that is by using an iron. With all the pieces cut out, you just put them in the right place and heat press on top of them. Because these little emblems are a bit detailed, you might have to go over them multiple times. Just make sure that after every heat press, you peel off the layer and then apply the next one. Reveal time. Oh. This right here is a Teflon foot. Often it's the little white foot that comes with your sewing kits, and this one is perfectly made for sewing plastics. Okay, now it's time to actually assemble the thing. Start with sewing the side of the bag. First step, insert the zipper. It's functional and it makes the bag usable. Just sandwich it between two layers of fabric so it looks clean, both the inside and the outside. Of course, because we're working with a transparent visor, the edges are going to look ugly and we don't want that. So to avoid that, I want you to sew some bias tape on top of the edge that we just sewn. Bias tape basically is a little piece of fabric that goes around the fabric itself, so that nobody ever sees the seam and they think that you finished it nicely. You can do it by machine or you can do it by hand. I prefer to do it by hand because I just like to do labor-intensive work. Why not? After applying the bias tape, make sure that you also shove in the straps on the back. On the reference, you can see that the straps are rather thick and very short, but I wanted to lengthen them a little bit more so I could actually wear them. Up next is the ears or the hair that we have to do. And then the outer shell of the bag is done. Yes, sewing these weird curves can be a bit sweaty, but what I often do is just sew them in place a little bit with by hand, and then afterwards go over it with the machine, so I know that nothing shifts and that we have a perfectly finished piece. Just sew the pigtails, turn them inside out, and then you can hand sew them to the bag. And kind of just like that. That's how you apply the pigtails. Oh, I also noticed that the pigtails have, of course, some elastics in their hair, so I kind of quickly mocked up some fabric, ironed on some more flex foil, and then I hand sewed it also to the pigtails. You know, this is the goofiest thing I made, and I'm so proud of it. But honestly, I think we could make it way easier. It wouldn't be a CosplayShop video if we didn't try to attempt to make this bag out of purely EVA foam. So, let's give that a try. The only thing you need for the foam bag is the foam pattern. It's the only pattern that you can download in the description that has no seam allowance. It's just right here, ready to glue. It's not a lot of pieces compared to the previous part. I spent my time cutting all the pieces out of 5mm EVA foam. I'm using the same 5mm EVA foam that I use for the bag because it gives a similar structure. While we're cutting the foam, some pieces need a bevel, such as the ear pieces, which slightly bevel inwards to make sure that they connect properly to the other pieces of foam, like you see right here. Alright, then I also cut out the front face in a 2mm EVA foam because I just wanted to have it's slightly less thicker so I can layer it up because there are going to be a lot of details that go on the front face. And of course, since I still have a big roll of vinyl, we're going to use the transparent vinyl that we used to the other bag, but this time we're going to glue this instead of sewing it. We need to paint this back panel first before we even start assembling everything. So I'm gonna take some primer and just start painting it already. I don't feel like making a zipper out of foam, so I'm gonna use a real zipper and just contact cement it to the foam. We have 2 pieces that go on top, and they are gonna be placed right there on the zipper. I'm gonna fill up the edges a little bit so that they're nice and round, and then the zipper looks more in its place. And then the last step is definitely to glue all the details on the front face of the Miku bag. We have, of course, our transparent panel, so make sure that stays clean, and you can just super glue all the tiny details in place. Now, I misaligned some of the details in the front, which is no problem. Nobody's gonna notice except for you, because I told you. We've done all our 3 preparations. We have the paint on the inside of the bag, we placed our zipper, and we placed our details at the front. Now we're ready to assemble. Okay, I glued everything down and then I went over it with a Dremel just to, make sure the edges were a bit more rounded and that everything kind of connects to each other properly. Yeah, no, I'm super happy with the foam bag. I thought the foam bag was gonna look weird and, I shouldn't have doubted myself. It looks good. It really looks good. Super excited with this. The next step is just assembling the details and then, we have a fabric bag and a foam bag. What I didn't include in the pattern were these little hair ties. Just cut a strip of 5mm EVA-foam, make it about 2 centimeters thick, and just glue it to the existing earpieces. You might need to cut off some length to make sure that it fits, because I didn't properly calculate the pattern, oops. But just adjust it with a box knife and then you have nice looking ears that look like this. Up next, top strap, back strap. Let's go. Oh. I'm not really going to make these functional. If you're making these functional, make sure to reinforce them, but you already saw how to do that in the fabric bag part. And once we've done that, we can just apply the pigtails with a bit of glue, and I think we are done. This looks really good. I'm actually really excited with the final result. It's a mission success. The next step is going to prime them, and then we're going to paint them using Cospaints to get the look of the Miku bag. We're going to use CosplayShop's Flex Bond because I would say it's one of my favorite primers to use, and I think it's gonna be very, very handy to just, paint this bag. So as you can see, I'm taking a bit of Flex Bond and I'm dyeing it with a color. I like this color. I'm gonna use this as the base layer for my Miku bag so that I can cover as much as possible. The acrylic paint will kind of help us to make sure that we cover everything, and once we take a good brush, we start covering the base, making sure that everything fits nicely. It took me 1 or 2 days to just paint and dry, making sure that everything looks nice and green. And then once everything is nice and green, we will start applying the color. We have the nice red and pinks for details. Some of the pieces also needed some gray. And of course, look, these red little letters are now nicely red. Because we're working with 3D, that means that you sometimes need to also go and touch the little edges. So be aware that you might need to go over it again if you make a mistake. Hey, that's it. Now you know how to make both a Miku bag out of fabric and foam and a Miku bag out of only EVA foam. Perfect. Later, losers. I'm going to shoot some miners.